I'm Dr. Barry, licensed psychologist, and here we talk about true crime and psychology. Thank you so much for joining. Let's hop right into today's topic. Let's go. Welcome. Today is kind of a heavier day. It's been a heavy week for the therapy community because a story made national news about a 44-year-old therapist being harmed by a former client and while she was in the middle of a therapy session with another client. Information has come out about the person. So family members of the individual that was in therapy with her and that tried to do everything he could to save her life and call for help. That individual, it's my understanding, last I checked, he was in critical condition, and that was earlier this week. I hope he continues to recover. In the past, somebody had asked me to do a video talking about how to grieve losing your therapist. And this just opened the door to talk about safety in mental health, safety in healthcare, and then also talking about how to grieve if you ever lose a therapist. And then also grieving as a therapist if you've ever lost a client, because that can be very hard too. And so my heart goes out to the family. Her name, she was 44 years old. Her name was Rebecca White. It sounds like she was really passionate about helping people that maybe other therapists might not work with. It sounds like services might have been court ordered. I'm going to share, because I'm going to read some information about the types of clients that she worked with. So this is Therapy Den. So I talk a lot about Psychology Today, and Therapy Den is just it's a free site. I'm listed, my outpatient practice is fully booked, but Therapy Den offers free and paid directory options for therapists, because Psychology Today is only you have to pay. You have to pay in order to list yourself there. So sometimes if you're looking for a therapist, Therapy Den can be a great place to start. Sarah, I agree. This definitely does sound premeditated. I wonder what happened, or if maybe if he was court ordered to services. I don't know if maybe a recommendation was made. I wonder how cooperative he was in services, or if maybe she terminated because so we do not know. And what happened in their therapy sessions, we may never know what happened, because so all the content warnings, the individual that killed Rebecca, he took his own life. And so, because if he went to a trial, so if he was arrested and if he went to a trial, some information might have been a part of the motive. Some of the information might have become public, but because of how this situation ended, we do not know. And we do not know what happened. So we could guess, and it could have been obsession, there could have been stalking, it could have been just like a disagreement in session. So I've had to set boundaries with clients before, and to say there are some things, so I'm going to be respectful of you. You also need to be respectful of me. There's certain language. So my clients can curse in session, but they can't curse at me. So they can't call me an FNB, but they can, if they need to use that language to talk about somebody outside the room, but like they can't curse at me, because that just feels, because I don't curse at my clients. If a client told me to shut my effing mouth, so if it's maybe a teenage client or a child client or even an adult client that was starting to get agitated in the session, I tell them they can walk up and go to they can walk out. like Like, so if they're getting agitated in the middle of like a family session or something, and I try to read the room and monitor things, but there are times that I've let people know, hey, if if you're getting that riled up, you can go calm in the lobby. I've had clients in sessions. I've had clients refuse to come into a session just because they were having a difficult moment and a difficult day, or for whatever reason. I've also worked with court ordered clients before. 99.9 of my court ordered clients were extremely compliant. I didn't have any issues, because I try to do a good job of like, hey, I know the court has required you to be here. I still want you to get something out of this service. So we're not just going to sit and look at each other because you have to be here. Like we're going to work on something. And maybe the court said you need to work on this and this, but maybe you might identify that like these are the things that you want to work on. I've never really had a ton of outpatient clients that are adults that have been found guilty of serious crimes. Like, so of so I just so I've never known that I've worked with anybody that's been convicted of like unaliving someone, or I don't do offender treatment. So Sarah asked a great question about the types of cases that I take and that I don't take. And y'all know, as I start my morning, sometimes I forget to plug in my computer. So let's do technology real quick. There we go. Technology is done. So I don't do offender treatment. So if somebody was coming because they needed to work on addiction, so addiction, and if it's not primarily trauma, or if it's not, because some people use substances to manage certain mental health conditions like bipolar disorder or schizophrenia or something. But I would first want them to be stabilized medically, like on if they are going to get back on medication or anything like that. But I don't do that type of treatment. There are therapists that love that work and that do that work. So I want to go back to sharing and talking about Rebecca's profile. And so about my client. So this is a public, she was a therapist down in Florida. Do you always feel like you keep messing up, keep making the same mistakes over and over again, wondering why you can't just get it right? I'm here to tell you you're not hopeless. You can do things differently and get what you want, but you can't keep doing the same thing and hope for things to change. Here's the truth. Chances are you haven't learned the skills you need to have a fulfilling relationship where you feel heard and understood. So her approach to helping, she was a licensed mental health counselor. So in the state of Florida, they have LMHC. They have licensed mental health counselor. In Virginia, we have LPC. We have licensed professional counselor. So different states sometimes call similar licensures different things. So in Florida, it's licensed mental health counselor with an action oriented approach to therapy services that combines different therapeutic techniques, tools, and approaches to best fit your needs to promote personal growth. I assist by helping empower you to remove the obstacles from life that are preventing your true potential. And so sometimes individuals that have a history of incarceration, they might have a external locus of control. And when I say an external locus of control, they're like, the system's against me. This person's against me. Like this person lied. Like they don't take responsibility or accountability for their behavior. And often motivational interviewing can be a great place to start with somebody that's coming in and saying, nothing is ever my fault. And because if they don't see themselves as a part of the issue or as a part of the problem, that's going to cause problems. Okay. Um, so and Sarah, honestly, I see your question about could he have become dependent on, and so honestly what I think might have happened, I wonder if she terminated services appropriately. So if I had a client that was calling me excessively and I asked them to stop and they wouldn't stop, and they were showing up to like they were coming up to me in the grocery store and being, so I've seen clients in the grocery store and we just both say hi and we keep doing our thing. Like we both be, I'm looking for groceries, you're looking for groceries. I've seen clients at the gym, I've seen clients all kinds of places, but we don't stop and have a therapy session. Like our understanding is like, hey, if I see you out in public, like, if you say hi, I'll say hi, but we're not going to get into this big conversation. And for any mental health professionals that are listening, if they do have a situation where they're concerned about safety with a client, I would encourage you to reach out to your liability insurance because your liability insurance can give you a lawyer. So, and what I mean by liability insurance, so medical professionals, we often pay money, a lot of money, to like if we ever get reported to our licensure board, if a client ever makes a complaint, or if there's ever anything related to our professional practice, we are covered for liability. And I had to reach out to my liability company to discuss options for a case I had, and for the first time it actually like paid. So the lawyer was paid for our consultation. And because in the past I had called and been able to do a free consultation, and but this was important. And in order to make sure that there were no issues down the road, I did need to have a paid consultation, and I needed to have my lawyer that represents my best interests to act on my behalf for a situation. Of course, I can't go into those details because that's confidential, but, for the first time, I had to use that. It was super easy, it was super smooth, and I'm glad that I did it, and I was able to learn some good things about the process because, they are there to help support you legally. So I take ethics courses. I try to stay on top of all of the rules and regulations related to my license and my board, but the lawyer knows it even better. And so let's say I needed to have a protective order against a client, or I needed to discharge a client and I was concerned about this and this. I would want to run that by. If it was a very risky situation that could cause issues down the road, it doesn't hurt to do a consultation with your liability insurance. I'm not sure how long she had been practicing. So I have her website. Um, let me see. Um, I could look it up on the Florida board, but honestly, I think she'd been practicing for a while. I don't think she was a new therapist. I could be wrong, but I don't think she was a new therapist. And she did provide um sex therapy. So that services for individuals that for a variety of reasons. So it could be somebody that has some type of dysfunction. It could be somebody that has aversions. It could be talking about safety. It could be addressing a harmful online viewing situation, or it could be somebody that has been convicted of a crime and needs this therapy in order to like live among the rest of us. It might be a court ordered type of therapy. So sometimes that happens. Lisa asked, Dr. Barry, given his violent history in the past against a female victim, do you think a woman therapist contributed to why he targeted her? I don't, even if it had been a male, I don't know if it was the fact that she was a woman, because he also severely harmed the male client that was in the room too. Now there could be a part of, like, let's say, because some people don't like being told what to do by a woman. So I have worked with, normally it was like teenagers that were raised in a home where they were taught, women don't know anything, and normally it's that parent that says those things aren't the one that like refer the client to me. Or there's that type of history, or they're down the wrong side of YouTube that's saying harmful things about women. Um, so a little bit more. So you all have probably looked into this a little bit. So the former client was identified as 39-year-old Michael Smith. Okay. And he was convicted of a sex crime, and he had been incarcerated for 19 years. Okay. And he was convicted of kidnapping, burglary, and 2 counts of SA in June 2003 in West Palm Beach. She was a counselor that was skilled in working with troubled clients, and and um, and so, after the session so after he did what he did and he attacked the client that was in the and he attacked the client that was in the room, it's my understanding they found him deceased the next day. That's my understanding. The client that was in the room, there is a GoFundMe created by his mom. And so I will share that in the chat, and I will also put it in the description. So I found this in a news article. So confirm all the details. Okay. So I believe, um, um, uh, and I think it would be unethical for me to do a background check on a client. I think she knew his history, because it's my understanding from Michael Smith, the attacker in this situation. It's my understanding that he was in court ordered therapy. And because she was his former therapist, I wonder if there were some red flags and she appropriately discharged him, and he just didn't take that well, which is like, we do not know, and it will be confidential how long she had been his therapist. And because he's no longer here either, um, because parts of that is confidential, it's privacy. And so I don't know that we'll ever have the answers to those questions because he's not going to a trial. I wonder if her family will advocate for some type of new law. And and I don't know that there's any law or anything that might, like, I think this was just a, a horrific bad situation. I think she did everything that she could do. It did have me look at the security in my office one more time. So when I'm in a counseling session, people can't just walk into my where I'm with clients. Uh, but I need a way to see who's on the other side of the door if I need to. And so, I'm considering my options, and it just needs to be HIPAA, because I already have Ring cameras out in the public lobby, so in like the public spaces, but in the waiting room, I don't currently have anything, and it's just something that I'm considering. Yeah. Um, and so, and I'm considering something that I could turn on and off because I don't necessarily need it all the time. But but yeah, I think I wonder if he was discharged and he didn't want to be discharged, or if she made a recommendation that he didn't like. Because let's say, because just because you're court ordered to treatment and you complete that treatment, it doesn't mean that you successfully completed it. Because let's say, yeah, he attended the groups, but she was still concerned about his risk to harm others. There might have been something in a report to, so we won't know, but there might have been something in a report to probation, or um there might have been something, or like I said, we will never know exactly what it is. And My heart truly goes out to her because this was work that she was incredibly passionate about and that she really enjoyed. And she was able to look at clients without judging them. So, the reason why I don't work with SA offenders is because I can't look at them and not, so I can't have a non judgmental approach. So, I don't work with people that have those types of crimes. And that's good. I'm not a marriage therapist because I'm not good at staying in the middle. Like I might think somebody's right or wrong in the middle. Like I might, because marriage therapists can't take sides. You have to stay in the middle. So I don't do couples counseling. I will sometimes support my client if they want to have a difficult conversation with their partner, because let's say my client has ADHD or PTSD or something, and they want their spouse to better understand how they can support them or something. I will sometimes support a conversation like that, but there are certain clients that I don't see in cases that I don't take. If I'm working with somebody and so the office that I work in, I try to schedule uh, at times that there are other people in the office. So, at a prior workplace, I'll never forget, I had a few clients that would get kind of loud, and a fellow therapist would knock on the door to be like, "Are you okay?" And we would talk about it. Um, I also wanted to share, and I have a link to this in the description, but the American Psychological Association, they also have some tips and suggestions to stay safe in in private practice. And so I have a link to that article down in the description. While being harmed in therapy is rare, it can be a reality. So some clients can turn harmful. What I've seen more often than not is a client become aggressive towards a family member. So like a child get aggressive with a parent. I've sometimes had children, I not often, but every now and then I've had a child become aggressive with me. And I am trained in, it's called MANT. But that was more when I was doing home-based therapy or when I was working in a psychiatric hospital. My worst experience was working in a residential hospital, and that was with kids age 4 to like 8 years old. They lived in this hospital 24/7, but it was for a period of time. So for a year and a half to 2 years, they would be in this treatment facility. But for a child to be in that type of care at like 6 years old, this child has severe behavior problems. And I got attacked so much, and I was just like, it wasn't the right fit, and I ended up switching. I take victims of DV, or I've worked with clients that have like borderline personality features, and maybe they do some mutual things, but they're willing to work on it. I've never worked with a case where I've known the person was like a primary aggressor or anything like that. And the reason why I say I've known because I could be working with somebody and they could be arrested for something that I wasn't aware of. Um, is it practice for clients to have nighttime appointments? Yes. So there are a lot of therapists that there's some therapists that start sessions as early as 6 a.m. and God bless them. Because my first session starts at 10 a.m. When I was single and didn't have a child, my first session would start at 8 a.m. So that's when I started services. So I would go from 8 to 6, and now I go from 10 to 6. I used to see clients at 6 p.m., 7 p.m., or 8 p.m. And once again, that was when I was single and didn't have a child. I used to work in people's homes. So I did intensive home-based therapy, and there were times where I would be at somebody's house until like 10 p.m. I've been at a psychiatric hospital waiting for a client to be hospital. It was an emergency room. I've been in the emergency room with a client until like 12 a.m. waiting for them to be admitted. There are therapists that do nighttime appointments, especially when you work with kids, teens, or working adults, because some people need sessions after work. Now, the majority of my practice, I'm incredibly like privileged. I don't know, like I'm very happy that now I work like 10 to 6. Those are my normal hours. Um Yes, somebody said they used to have, late afternoon, early evening appointments, yes. So, my highest valued time is, like, my 3, 4, or 5 o'clock appointments. Those times are really high. If a person needs a 6, 7, or 8 p.m. appointment, I am not their therapist. Yeah, so fellow therapist, and I really wanted to, because I talk about so many other cases, I just couldn't let this one pass because my heart also breaks for the patient that witnessed all of this. So there she was in a session, and um so Michael Smith, it's my understanding, he banged on the door and demanded to see her. She asked him to leave. That's what happened. She asked him to leave, and that's when, it's my understanding, he pulled out a knife, and, he attacked her, he attacked the male patient that was trying to call 911, and then he fled. And so, I don't think there's anything that she could have done different. Um, uh and I want other therapists to know, and I wonder if she kind of had an idea, a sense that he was harmful and that it wasn't safe for her to meet with him one on, and also, like, she's in session, so, like, she's not gonna stop the session to stop and talk to him. And, it wasn't that patient that was there, they did everything that they could, and, it is going to be a lot. I've heard his mother and father came forward, so let me see if I have his, because I think the family might have released his name. So the mother of the man that was stabbed multiple times trying to protect his therapist. Oh, he's out of the hospital and recovering. Good. That's very good news. Um, and let me see. All right. I'm trying to see, um so the mother said, "My son jumped on him to try to get him off and got him on the ground, but the guy overpowered him and started attacking her son." She said her son was attacked repeatedly in the face, back, and hands while trying to fight off Michael Smith. He was released from the hospital on Wednesday, but is still recovering physically and emotionally. He keeps having regrets about not going back up the stairs, but if he had, he would have been deceased. And so, my heart truly, truly goes out to him. Yeah, and I have links to the news articles down in the description. I think I saw it on Instagram. So, but yes, social workers, probation officers, also hospital staff, because hospital staff can get spit, they can get body fluids thrown at them. Doctors have sometimes been physically harmed because, for whatever reason, and it's not okay. So those things are not okay. And a therapist does have the right to say, "This is not a right fit. I need to refer you to somebody else." And it sounds like Michael Smith, for whatever reason, he wasn't in services, or whatever happened, or whatever set him off that day. You don't do that to people. And so, because he because Michael Smith, did that to himself, so I don't know if he was feeling, because sometimes when people are feeling like I don't know if he had, like, a pending charge. So I've heard sometimes it can be a dangerous situation if you're working with a client, because he was incarcerated for 19 years. And I wonder if he got so mad at her and then he didn't want to go back to jail. I wish that there had been a trial and that there had been some type of justice for Rebecca. And that's where I say, I wonder if her family will add, but down the road, because they're grieving. This just happened on Monday. Like it just happened Monday. And if they'll do some type of memorial, like I just my heart just breaks for all of them. I definitely think that the survivor's guilt for that patient that was in the room, that will be a lot. Yeah. And so unofficially, I used to carry mace with me. Like I don't know, and I never had to use it. So I never had to use it. And I would never carry anything like a weapon, so I would never carry like a pew pew or anything like that. I also on my keychain, I don't have my keys up here, but I have like an alarm. So I have something that like when you pull it out, it makes a really loud noise. So, and then when I was going to a client's house, I would back into their driveway, or I would make sure that I could leave without being obstructed. So, um, that I could easily exit if I had to. When I first met with a client, I would try to meet with them like like in a very open part of the home. And if I ever was meeting with a client, like let's say one on one, because sometimes for privacy, we did have to meet in a bedroom or something. I never sat on their bed. I always sat closest to the door with my back to the door. If somebody ever is starting to get harmful towards you, you stand up and you back away. There are a lot of therapists that take some type of self-defense or some type of de-escalation training. I've also had situations where people have shown up and demanded a session, and the way that I tried to phrase it is take a seat. I'll be with you as soon as I'm done. So I have had somebody show up and demand to be seen, and I was in session, and um and so I did just ask, please take a seat, and it wasn't a situation that was going to be harmful to me. I had to assess to make sure the person wasn't going to be harmful towards themselves. I also have a policy where if a client is more than 20 minutes late, then we there that's a no like we have to reschedule their session. Some people don't like that. Well, like that's that's my rule, and I keep it where my client's time is their time. So I try to run on time. But yeah. All right. I think I saved a question. All right. What's the point of having privilege survive the client, especially when they committed a crime? So it just because somebody commits a crime doesn't mean that that privilege is gone. And it transfers to their family. So if his family ever wanted to release those records or anything, and then for Rebecca White, somebody will be the custodian of her records. There might be some things that are public record. So sometimes things are filed with the court that are public record. I haven't dug into this case to see if there was anything like that in this case. Um, um, all right. Yeah. And so with him being incarcerated, so 19 years, he was his other crime was in 2023, 2003. I don't know that he had been out very long because it's my understanding that he did 19 years. Yeah. So let's say, because if he was convicted in 2003, and I don't know when he was convicted, um, but he might have only been out for a few years. Michael Smith. Um, I just the part of the reason why I wanted to talk about this is because the work that Rebecca White did is very important. And there are people that might have the exact same crime as Michael Smith. They do the work. They are no longer a danger to themselves or others. They participate in treatment. They identify their, whatever things, you know, they need to work on. And so I wanted to talk about this because I think Michael Smith is the exception. I don't think he's the norm. Um, uh, and and if there were any red flags with the parole board or anything like that, because I don't know if he served his full sentence, if he was released early, those are all things that people can look back at. But there are people that have, like I said, the exact same charge he had, and they do make change, they do work on things, and those are the people that I think that's why Rebecca did the work that she did. Um, as I mentioned, the counseling community is definitely grieving, and it can be hard to lose your therapist just be like if you have an insurance change. So sometimes if you have a change in insurance, you have to change a therapist, or if your therapist starts their own practice, and or if the client moves out of the area, or if the therapist moves, there are lots of different, but like when your therapist dies, when your therapist is murdered in front of you, that's a whole different situation, and that's a whole different trauma. And so, for the surviving victim and his family, I do just hope that he knows and realizes that it wasn't his fault. He did the best he could, and this is likely something that's going to haunt him for a while. And I hope he connects with a really good therapist. Um, uh That's probably gonna be very, triggering, so I could see some people possibly starting out virtually possibly at first, or if they were able to meet in person, but just being in a therapist office could be triggering for that individual. And so, they have a journey forward, and I believe that people can heal. Like, I have that hope that things can get better when people do the work. And so I just really, really, I really hope that that hurts. Yeah, that helps. And, somebody mentioned that their therapist passed, and I think multiple people talked about losing their therapist, and often if they find, another therapist. So I have a plan in place. If anything ever happens to me, I have a close friend that I would want to notify my clients, and then also they would help maintain my record and everything. So therapists, we do have to have a plan for just in case something happens. Not every therapist has that. It is something that we should think about and have. What's more common is a therapist goes on medical leave or family leave, or they're like maternity leave or grief bereavement leave, and that's when they need somebody to come on and help cover their cases. um, I have worked with clients after their therapist, either, after losing for various reasons. So sometimes just benign reasons, or for bigger reasons. Never a situation like this though. Um, and it can be hard to start over. And if I ever have a client that had another therapist that they really liked, I often ask them, "What did you really enjoy about working with them? What did you like about?" Because maybe they say, "They really called me out on my shit or something, or they really did this, or they did that." If it's something that fits within my style too, or and I don't get intimidated, or I don't feel inferior when they talk about how much they adored that other therapist. And I admit, hey, I may never live up to that other person, and I'm not trying to. I can never replace them. I want to support you as you grieve this. And so I hope I can just kind of like be in the general area, but I may never be as great as that phenomenal therapist that you absolutely adored. Yeah. So somebody mentioned our therapists become an extension of our family. They are remembered on holidays and special occasions, just like our family members. I'm very grateful for my therapist who helped me. Nice. And so I've had clients that I've worked with for long periods of time. And sometimes when y'all ask questions, I answer them in a short. So a fellow therapist asked how long I would go between sessions seeing a client before I discharged them. And I've had to discharge clients that because they move out of state, because insurance changes and like an out of pocket rate isn't going to work, or because maybe they need a different type of service. So if I was working with a client and they needed, so I don't do, I work with disordered eating, but not major eating issues that require like a specific type of treatment. So I might have to refer a client for that type of help. Um, let me just. hmm, all right. Wow, Sarah mentioned even when you moved out of state, still flew to see that client. Well, to see that therapist. That's super cool. Excuse me. That is super cool. Ah, glad that you all can be here today and we can create this space. It can also be hard for a therapist to lose their client. And so that can be due to medical reasons. It can be due to a like car, like there can be a lot of, it can be an accident. It can be a lot of different reasons why a therapist loses a client. One of the ones that we dread, and that's why like some therapists will overdo it if a client is having dark thoughts because they just get afraid. They and so is if a client harms themselves or somebody else. And so that's where anytime my clients are feeling hopeless, as you're watching here, if anybody is ever like, nobody cares about me, nobody would care if I wasn't here. I tell my clients, I look, into the camera and I say, like, I would care. Like, I care that you're here. I enjoy, so for my clients, I tell them I enjoy working with them. I would be devastated if something happened to them. But like that, like if there was a situation like that. And thankfully knocking on all the wood, all the things. And I work with clients that have severe dark thoughts, that it's not a matter of if they're having dark thoughts, it's a matter of where the dark thoughts are in their brain. And often those clients have a ton of pain. And when we address the pain and lessen the pain, those dark thoughts don't feel as bad. I've also worked with some clients that they needed medication. So where when they're on their medication, those dark thoughts go away, which to me proves this is medical. Because if the dark thoughts go away as soon as they take the medication, then like it might be like managing type 1 diabetes, that you just this is a part of your medical care, that serotonin in a bottle or whatever is prescribed. And so we care. We are so glad that people are here. We're so glad to have this safe space. And so the biggest fear is so that's one of mine. I don't know that every therapist would say that. And I have a history of working with very severe cases, very severe clients that have a history of hospitalization, have a history of being in residential care. So in um a mental hospital for 6 months or more, or in very conflictual family situations where it's a lot. Their environment, it's not enough to call social services, or it's not enough for them to be removed from their environment, but it's incredibly hard to heal in. And so for me, it's not afraid of blame. So I never want to lose a client. So I would never want to lose a client. So it wouldn't be that I was afraid of any blame or anything. I just don't want to their own action. That's what I mean. And y'all know YouTube, I can't say certain words. So hopefully you're reading in between the lines. Ah, Lisa, I feel like Dr. Berry is talking about me. I had those exact same conversations with your therapist. Yes, yes, yes. This is very helpful for me as a mental health organization admin. I try to support our team the best I can. Yes. Usually by just being present with them is so helpful. Yes. So people just knowing that you care. So my clients are able to now they know if they can't get a hold of me, they need to call 911. 988 is the crisis hotline in the United States. But often, if I have a client that's in crisis outside of their regular session time, as long as it's not like 1 a.m. or something, normally I'm able to do a brief phone call with them, or I'm able to send them a resource, or I'm able to get them the support that they need. Because let's say there's an imminent safety concern and we need to work on the process of getting them assessed or anything. And I don't do that against my client's will. And so I try with a client, I try to say, okay, I'm concerned about your safety. I'm really, really concerned. I see you, I hear you. I really think you're in a really dark place. I need to let somebody know. Like we need to talk safety, and I need to include somebody else. Who would you like me to reach out to? Because sometimes in that moment, it's not always the person that's their emergency contact. And so if in that moment the person they feel safest, because maybe and if it's a child, it has to be their parent. But if it's an adult, I can talk with them about how they want me to handle it. If I'm working with a child in that situation, I ask, do you want to be in the room while I talk with them about it? Do you want for me to tell them? Do you want to tell them? I try to give them some choice, but like we're gonna talk like they need to know. Like we've talked about some things. We need to talk about how to move forward. Um, and I've had people look at me and say, like, if I don't go to the hospital, I'm scared that like something will happen. And so that's when we advocate, okay, go to the hospital. The reason why psychiatric hospitalization, especially in acute, brief, or short term hospitalization, is my last resort, is because acute psychiatric hospitalization has a medical model. You don't go to for a grippy sock vacation because you need therapy. Because often, like, yeah, they might have group therapy, they might have art therapy, but when I was on an inpatient unit, I only had to see my clients Monday through Friday for 20 minutes. That was it. They were there for medication stabilization. Like it was mostly the psychiatrist figuring out, because also that was what insurance was going to pay for. I don't know. And people get the care they can afford. They don't always get the care that they need. I've had clients have much better success in what we call partial hospitalization programs. So in partial hospitalization, that's where somebody goes, and that's when like they're pretty severe. Like they're having like life is feeling overwhelming. They're not functioning during the day, but they're safe enough to go home at night, but not quite stable enough to go to work. And so the partial hospitalization process has where they go from like 8 a.m. to like 2 or 5 p.m. And they have groups. They sometimes have individual therapy, but they're getting support. And sometimes partial programs have different tracks. Sometimes there's a substance track. So I've had clients do partial hospitalization for addiction, for intensive trauma work, and then also combat veterans are able to do that through there are military hospitals. I think it might be Walter Reed or Fort Belvoir. One of those two in my area offer it, but sometimes the military hospital will offer it for active duty or retired service members. And so, um, uh, I often, what's most common in my practice is I meet with clients once a week. About a third of my caseload, I meet with every other week. Like a very small portion of my caseload, I meet with once a month. And then most of my clients are weekly. And every now and then for crisis, sometimes I'll meet with people twice a week. Yeah. And so, and I've had a lot of clients get worse during inpatient hospitalizations, and so that's why I try to avoid it if I, but sometimes it's necessary. So if I have a client that had their first psychotic break. So let's say there's a family history of schizophrenia. This client has not shown, but now they're like 20 to 25 and they have their first psychotic break and they're like not sleeping, they're like, and this is safety is a concern. I've sometimes seen the psychiatric hospitalization be helpful because they're gonna play with the meds. They're often gonna put them on way too many meds, and then the outpatient person is gonna have to like clean it up once they're discharged. But those are the times that I've found psychiatric hospitalizations to be best. Yeah, sometimes they're called day programs. So partial hospitalization, AKA day programs. Yes. Yes, yes, yes. Yeah. So in my area, it's called partial. It's called partial hospitalization. Every place calls it something different. Um, yeah. And so and I've sometimes had therapists. So just because a client says, "Hey, I'm having dark thoughts," doesn't necessarily mean that that person needs to immediately go to the hospital. We talk about it. We talk about it. Okay, so what's bringing up those thoughts? How are we doing? Like, is there a plan? Like how can we create safety around this? So I worked with some people that, let's say they live alone and they're having dark thoughts at night. They've sometimes said, I'm going to go stay with my best friend until this kind of passes. Like, I'm grieving this loss and I just need, I'm making up so that wasn't a real situation. So I don't talk about real client stuff here. And because also we talk about safety planning. Back in the old days, oh, probably the 90s, I don't know. So back in the day, they used to do these I agreed to not do this contract. I think they called it I think it was just like you just signed saying I won't do it, and those are not helpful. But safety plans identify, these are my triggers, these are the people that are supportive to me. This is what I can do instead. So when these dark thoughts happen, I can read a book, watch a K-drama, and I was smiling a little because y'all know I like K-dramas. I can call a friend, and this is the friend that I can call, and here's their phone number. But often doing a safety plan is way more helpful than this. Um, and so 988 is for more than just self thoughts. It's also for people that maybe are just feeling stressed and overwhelmed. But the main purpose is it replaced the hotline. Let me see. Some people have a bad experience, so I don't know that the people at 988, I don't know if it's volunteers, but it's a crisis lifeline. So let me share that tab where we can look at 988. Okay. So 988, you can call, text, you can chat, and they also have a hearing option. But what to expect, that first you'll hear a message, some hold music, connect to a live counselor. A skilled counselor will see if you're safe. They'll ask about your safety. If you text it, here are the options. So that's what that does. You can help somebody else. So if you have a family member, if you know somebody that's struggling, And then if you just need to connect. So there's a loneliness, there's like a compassionate, like there is a bit of an epidemic. So it's a real person. It's not a bot, it's not AI, it's a real person. But I've had some people have bad experiences. So that's why I'm just saying some people have bad experiences. And then for individuals that are LGBTQ, IA plus, there's the Trevor Project. I believe they have their own hotline. Sometimes people in specific communities can access different hotlines if there's something that is specific to what a person is going to. Menu. Do do do. But crisis center, stories of hope, mental health. All right. So those are different options. So once again, I wanted to share this in memory of Rebecca White. She sounds like she was a phenomenal therapist that enjoyed working with tough cases. She worked with people that I personally would have referred to somebody else, because there are certain cases that just aren't a good fit for me. And she was able to see those people, to see those individuals and connect and help them heal. And like I said, I think Michael Smith made Poor like that. And I really just wanted to remember Rebecca in this moment, in this live, and I will make sure to go back later and add the link to the surviving patients GoFundMe. I haven't seen, and I don't think they released his name. Um, but they have the name of the organizer. And this was shared by the news station, by Fox 35. That's where I found a link to that. Um, uh, and so, like I said, my heart goes out to them. Yes, at least I agree. It sounds like she was very passionate about her work, and everybody needs, so I'm glad there are people that enjoy working with people that are incarcerated. I'm glad that there are therapists that enjoy doing marriage therapy, because there are marriage therapists that would never do what I do. There are therapists, so I work with kids and families, and sometimes I have to go to court because I try to stay out of court if I can, but nah. um I enjoy working with two parents that can't get along, but they agree for me to work with their child, and I try to help support the family in the midst of that. Like, I really really love the work I do. She loved the work she did, and nobody should be harmed just because they said, you know, no, you can't bust in to my session. Let's say she did make a recommendation that he was still a risk and maybe needed to start the program again. That would have been because of his behavior. That would have been on him. And I think he should have made different choices. Those are just my thoughts. I'll be going live with Paul at 4 p.m. So in about an hour, I will be going live with Paul, and we will be talking about the Ohio case. It's the Tepe case. And that's another difficult one. If you need to skip it, skip it. If you're going to be back with us, please join us. And I hope you all are safe and warm. We are storm ready. So we are all ready. My mom was in the chat. She might still be in the chat now. Um, she has a lovely, like, she doesn't have to worry about shoveling her driveway, so she let us borrow her shovels. And so thank you, mama. We are all prepared. We have food, because my neighbors were saying this morning the grocery store, the chip aisle was bare. When I went to the grocery store, lettuce. I just wanted lettuce that wasn't arugula. So y'all can love arugula. I don't. Arugula tastes like soap. And some people are that way with cilantro. I can't do arugula, and so I took the arugula out, and then I have the rest of my salad. But Virginia is weird when it comes to weather. Monday, the federal government has already shut down DC area for Monday, so we'll see how much we get. I thank you all for being here. And Marissa, pet loss is real. And so, just wanted to hold space with you for that. Oh, wow, y'all have snow in North Texas. Wow. Stores sold out stores sold out of food a few days ago. And so I hope everybody keeps electricity in Texas. I know y'all's grid, so I hope everything stays safe. The weather is supposed to be cold the next few days, and so, I will see y'all about 4 PM in about an hour. Have a good one. Bye.